Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here for another edition of Shaun Solo. And today, I want to talk a little bit more about Metal Gear Solid 5. It's coming out September 1st, as most people probably know. It's one of the bigger games that's coming out this year. I'm actually kind of really happy that it's coming out in early fall, right before the fall, the end of the summer. It's kind of got its own release kind of window, right? So we're not going to have to make tough decisions. The only other game of note that's coming out at the same time is Mad Max, which looks interesting, but I have not heard the best things about it. I've heard some kind of somewhat seemingly negative reports about it kind of having stale gameplay, or that it's a little rote, but I'm still interested in it, but that's probably not going to be a day one for me. I'm much more excited about Metal Gear Solid 5. But more specifically, in regards to Metal Gear Solid 5, what I want to talk about is fan theories and analysis videos and all the things that YouTube is filled with, right? I've written a little bit about this before. I've talked a little bit about this before. But there are kind of the two most prominent ones that I'm aware of are a guy, Yong Yea. He's been doing Metal Gear Solid stuff for years now, and he's really cool. He seems like a really affable, nice dude. And he just released his almost 2-hour E3 2015 trailer analysis, and where he basically goes almost frame by frame and talks and picks the whole thing apart and talks a little bit about everything and kind of maybe guessing to where the story is going to go. And then you have on the other side of that, you have a PythonSelkanHD, which two guys from Malta, I believe they're brothers, and they kind of do. They're even more in depth, they're even more of a deep dive. But the thing with them is they are pulling stuff from everywhere, even outside of the Metal Gear Solid games themselves, to kind of support their theories. Their major theory, spoilers, if you're worried about being spoiled on Metal Gear Solid 5, these things are obviously not concrete, but they are. Some of them seem more plausible than others, and but the PythonSelkanHDs is kind of all about Gray Fox. That the character you're playing in Metal Gear Solid 5 is not actually the real big boss, and that there was some kind of switcheroo happened, and that'll be kind of the twist at the end of the game, so that you realize you've actually been playing as Gray Fox the whole time, while Big Boss has been kind of pulling strings behind the scenes. I've watched all that stuff. All of their videos, both of the video creators, YongYea and PythonSelkan. Actually, the first one I ever saw was PythonSelkanHD. Those were the ones that, I think there were videos about the child soldiers. Those are the things that I first kind of stumbled upon because just like every other Metal Gear Solid fan, when it was actually announced that it was Metal Gear Solid 5, and I believe even PythonSelkan maybe even kind of had videos about that. The Phantom Pain was actually Metal Gear Solid 5 before it was officially announced. But, I was just hungry for more stuff. Just anything. Anything. Because it's so exciting. As a Metal Gear Solid fan, it's really exciting. And just the level of batshit craziness in that initial trailer really kind of just drove home that we were going to get the biggest, most epic, weirdest Metal Gear Solid game possible. And that's what we want, as fans. I think even more so than the gameplay and the mechanics of the games, they're almost secondary to the actual story. That's kind of what we follow. That's what we think back on, we remember fondly. Although, having said that, a lot of those games, they actually hold up pretty well. I've been kind of slowly making my way through all of the franchise over the past few months, because I have the first one on PSN and the HD collection and Metal Gear Solid 4, obviously I own that. So I've been kind of going through them, and they hold up pretty well for the most part, and mechanically. But when I think of Metal Gear Solid, that's not what really comes to mind. It's not the revolutionary gameplay, because in the context of time, those games were really impressive, and a lot of games from those same eras do not hold up very well. Metal Gear Solid, though, as a series overall, holds up actually fairly well. There's a lot of antiquated stuff in there, but like I said, relative to when it came out, it was kind of awesome. It was amazing. But like I said, I'll get back on track here. It's the story. That's really what drives us in. And the coolest thing about Metal Gear Solid, in my opinion, is that there is enough stuff in there to actually support like making these kinds of like 2-hour analysis videos. And I think that it's really cool. Like there's just that much depth there. They're not shallow. You know, like they may be convoluted and silly and kind of dumb. They kind of are, but like in my opinion, it's kind of in the best, funnest way possible. And they also have something to say about the world, which I think is actually goes above and beyond what most games do, because they do it in a fairly responsible way in terms when they're talking about like the nuclear proliferation and the kind of war economy. Like these are all things that are very like relevant to our life and society as a whole. So they make they're these big operatic things, and they make these big, bold, sweeping statements. I mean, shit. Like if you were to think about the subtext for Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, when they're talking about the digital age and like how information is controlled and how things are changed because everything is digital. Being digital like kind of means it's like incredibly malleable. Information has become malleable. Facts are not facts anymore in the same way they used to be. So it's kind of it's a really like prescient, interesting thing even today. They've always been kind of ahead of the curve in that, at least with the Metal Gear Solid series from the PlayStation 1 forward. Like they've just always been really prescient games, and like the lessons, the subtext still rings true today. Like pretty much all of it. And the thing that's why like these analysis videos. I apologize, I'm kind of stuttering, but these analysis videos, they kind of see these things and they try to take it farther. I would say like the Yong Yea and the PythonSelkan ones are a little bit more of the literal thing, like what's actually going on in the plot, like surface level stuff a lot of the times, which makes sense because you can't really do a proper analysis of the game until it comes out. If you want to see like really good analysis of at least the first 3 games, I would recommend Super Bunny Hop. It's a YouTube channel. I'll put links to all this stuff in the description, but he's done, at least for the first 3 games, a really, really fantastic like kind of breakdown of the themes and what they're really about and blah blah blah. Kind of puts his own opinion in there. It's kind of like an opinion piece, an op-ed. It's like a visual essay, pretty much, and they're really good. They're really insightful. Actually, the reason why I actually found his was because for years I wanted to do one. I had planned for years. I had all this video footage like saved up on my hard drive, sitting there for probably like I would say 2.5 years. Because for a long time there wasn't anything like that. So every once in a while, like every 6 months, once a year, whatever, I would go and check to see if anybody had done anything on YouTube. And then lo and behold, the last time I did it, when I was really ramping up, I had actually even kind of started writing a script and stuff. I found the Super Bunny Hop ones, and he says pretty much anything you need to say about that series in a really smart, succinct manner. So I would say if you're a fan of the series, or you just want to get a refresher, you just want to get a refresher or kind of bring yourself back up to speed, or just go a little bit deeper than maybe you had before, it's worth checking out. They're totally worth checking out. But that's not to say that the PythonSelkan and the Yong Yea ones are not also worth checking out. And the reason why I bring up them two specifically is, first of all, they're the more prominent ones, and second of all, like there's like a divide in the community of people that watch them for some reason. It's really odd. If you were to go look at the comments, and I know that comment sections usually are not like the bastions of well thought out opinion. A lot of just stupid hate shit, like shit slinging. I mean, typical internet crap, really. But I just find it weird, because why do people care? You know, why do you care if one person thinks something different than the other? Like, it doesn't invalidate either of them. And I would say even Yong Yea's video, a lot of that stuff could apply just as easily to PythonSelkan's and vice versa. Their main sticking point, the main difference they feel, is the Gray Fox stuff. Also, that Gray Skull. No, is that Skullface? It's not Gray Skull. It's not He-Man. Skullface is the main protagonist in the trailers, and then he's kind of like the shadowy protagonist in Ground Zeroes, the prologue. That he doesn't really exist, and PythonSelkan's all about like the VR training stuff, and how that maybe Ground Zeroes isn't really happening. It's not like a literal thing. It was kind of it was Gray Fox's like a training scenario that he went through or something like that, and that Grayskull maybe is not actually, doesn't actually exist. He's a figment of or imagination or some kind of patriot construct that's like kind of been almost like downloaded into Gray Fox. YongYea is not like that. He's very much a literalist. He looks at like what's just there in the trailers. He doesn't really kind of move too far past what's in the trailer. Doesn't infer too much, because PythonSelkan, that's what they do a lot. They take little things from the trailer. They look at Kojima's Twitter account and they pick apart everything he's ever said, and they kind of move forward that way. That's kind of more their style, and I think they're both valid. I think they're both, most importantly, they're both a lot of fun. Like if you're a fan. Now I understand like people not wanting to watch this stuff at all because like, oh well, you might ruin it for yourself. But to me, that's not. It doesn't ruin it for me if I know. Like, it'll almost be cool to see if any of the stuff gets validated. And the reason why it would be cool to see that is because there's enough information, like in the marketing and the trailers and all that stuff, to actually figure it out. And Kojima's kind of famous for that. He's a famous trickster. Even most recently, like I'm sure most people know, the PT demo, the playable teaser demo for Silent Hills. Rest in peace, PT. But it wasn't not announced as a PT demo or trailer or vertical slice or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It wasn't announced as that. It was announced as just a game you could play. And here's this weird game you can play. You can go download it now. It was announced at E3 2014. They said, oh, you can go play in it right now. And then, but the game itself, just if you complete the game and you have to, like, there's a win state that's different than just going through the motions of the game, and that's how you unlocked it. But to do that, you had to do very particular things, and the internet came together and crazy and found all the clues and did all this weird shit, and, like, how to use the PlayStation camera and stuff like that, and the microphone, and they figured it out, and they ended up finding the teaser for Silent Hills, the little movie thing of Norman Reedus walking down a creepy street. But so he's kind of famous for that. Like there's precedent there to actually think he may be like, putting clues into these things about the larger, broader twists and arcs and stuff like that. It's totally plausible. And he loves doing crazy shit. And he's a deep diver, Kojima. Like, when he has stuff in his games, like, it's his spin on it, but they are very well researched to a certain extent, and everything feels like it's there for a reason. And I would say Metal Gear Solid 5 is definitely a game that I think looks like everything is there for, like, a reason. It's all about being specific. And that's why people are able to, like, make these analysis videos, and they're not boring. That's the crazy part. They're not boring. You could take a 6 minute trailer, and you can get a 2-hour video out of it, and you don't feel like you're grasping to kind of fluff it out to make it longer, artificially lengthen it because you just want to hit some like 2-hour marker. No, it's all there. In fact, there's probably more stuff there. And the cool thing about what I wish people would do with these communities, and I know there's probably message boards and stuff like that I'm not aware of that do this, but like take all this stuff and work together and figure stuff out. If you're that big of a fan, if you're that interested. I guess that's the real question. Is this about, like, who's the most right? And, like, there's a little bit of ego involved. I think, from what I see, now I don't know this for certain. I don't know any of these people personally. I've never spoken to any of them. PythonSelkan seems a little bit egotistical. A little bit. I follow them on Twitter and stuff. I follow YongYea on Twitter, too. And, they're really into like calling people out and like they take it very seriously. And if you watch their videos, you'll see you can tell like, yeah, okay, they take this real seriously. They are serious Metal Gear fans. And it's just weird, like it's like this weird, like the communities that rise up around, I guess, these like theories is just kind of weird to me. And that was really my main impetus, was like seeing that stuff and then thinking about it. Like, it's almost like Metal Gear fandom, like in the little niche that it is or people that are really into it. I mean, they're obviously really big games, but people that are really, really into it and really, really into the lore, they're like kind of a niche little community, and they're kind of like divide themselves and kind of pick a side, almost like pick a team. Really weird. Really silly. But having said that, like, I like both of them. Like, I do. I think they're both valid to their own, to whatever. It seems like Yong Yea's big sticking point, like Yong Yea does not believe in the Gray Fox thing, and if you were aware of the two different content creators, you'll know that he kind of, I mean, I guess you could say he took a little bit of a dig at him, but not really a dig. It was pretty innocuous. I think just like people that are like diehard PythonSelkan acolytes or whatever were just like, oh, he said he doesn't think the Gray Fox theory is correct like some other people, because that's basically what he said. Like he's like, I don't buy the Gray Fox stuff like some other people do. It's pretty much the extent of it. Pretty innocuous. And I was just curious, like, sometimes it's like one of those weird things that you're really bored, or I was really bored, and you kind of just get like caught up in following like stupid internet drama, because this would be the height of dumb things that you could engage with and like look into. So I was just wondering if they were shit talking each other, but they didn't. So that good for, at least not so far. I would imagine maybe PythonSelkan would be too kind of like standoffish to watch somebody else's analysis. I mean, that's probably two parts of that. Part of that's probably a little bit of an ego thing. Second part's probably so they're not influenced. They have their own ideas, their own opinions, and they have another one coming out, their final one, which I think they're saying is going to be like 2 hours, another 2-hour video, where it's kind of a culling together of all the work they've done, because they've been doing stuff since like day one of Metal Gear Solid 5, like the announcement. Like I said, like years ago, watching like with that first announcement trailer and watching their videos about the child soldiers and stuff like that. Like, so they've been at it for quite some time, and yeah, interesting nonetheless. Regardless of how you feel about either one, like, it's all interesting stuff. And it always goes back to the games themselves and the stories themselves, and how they actually afford the ability to do that. That's why I'm a Metal Gear fan. Like, that's why I love these games, because you can actually do that stuff, and it's not cloying or stupid, or, well, it could be stupid, but it's not. It doesn't seem out of place. Like, you can take it as seriously as you want to. Which is saying a lot. Not a lot of games do that. Like, a lot of people criticize the series for this, that, or the other. They just can't kind of get on the silliness of it. Like, it's too much of a barrier for them. Like, kind of the anime silliness or the mech anime stuff. Like, some people just can't get into it, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be for everybody. It is for me, though. That's for sure. I really like it. And that's why I like it. I mean, it's great. It's great. So much fun. So much fun to me. Like, it's just as a nerd, like, so much fun. And I wish more games did this kind of stuff. And, it's one of these things that's like a weird, like, we're in this weird place in gaming right now. It's like at the cusp of it being taken more culturally serious, I guess. Like, kind of bridging that gap between movies and games, or games art and all this other crap. Like, pretentious conversation around it, which I think are valid conversations, but the way some people talk about it, I think is a little much. But they get criticized a lot. They get torn apart by people that read whatever they're going to read into it, because there is so much depth, but there's also kind of, especially with Metal Gear Solid, there's a broadness, there's a vagueness there that's indirect, and it kind of invites you to make your own opinion up to a certain degree. That's not to say that the game doesn't preach at you, because it totally does preach at you, like, through long, historically long cutscenes and stuff, like, where they literally will just somebody will monologue for 20 minutes, basically laying everything out for you, if you're paying attention. But sometimes it's hard for people to pay attention for 20 minutes at a time and really listen and really try to unpack it. I love that stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to just watch the cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid 1, because if you beat Metal Gear Solid 1, you can just go watch the cutscenes. I used to do that all the time. All the time. Metal Gear Solid 2, couldn't do that. They left that feature out. I was super bummed because as soon as I beat that game, that's the first thing I went to go look to do, and you couldn't. So it wasn't until like, and then I beat the game like a few more times, but it wasn't until years later where I found on YouTube or actually at the time I think back then it was before they were on YouTube and they were on. I had to go find them like through torrents. Yeah, torrents. So I had to go find the videos through torrents. And they were huge, and it took me like 3 months to download because there's no seeders for it, because nobody gives a fuck except me. But since then, it's really easy. A couple keystrokes on YouTube, and you're right there. You can watch all of them. All of them. Even the digital graphic novels, the Peace Walker, the PSP stuff, like, all that stuff. It's great. It's awesome. It's really fun. They're really long. But if you're into it, man, like, over the next... Man or ladies... Men, ladies. But if you're into it, the next like few months, we will be like a month and a half out or so. You could spread it out. You could do it. I would say for required refreshers, you're gonna want to watch or play or just replay the games like I am. Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, and Peace Walker. Those are the big boss games, the prequel games, if you will. Those are the ones. I mean, while I do think there's going to be this nice kind of full circleness, and if the more familiar you are with the whole franchise, probably the more you're going to get out of it. But I think like if you just want like the direct line, Metal Gear Solid 3 and Peace Walker. The Portable Ops, the first one, is, from what I understand, is not even canon. It's kind of like a side thing. That's why you fight raptors in it. It's like a really silly game. Really fun for the time, especially though. Like I love that game when it came out. I even liked Acid. And Acid sucks. But but like you're so starved for just more Metal Gear at the time, because now it was before like we had all the games that are out now, and now just a few clicks away from experiencing them at any time. You just really, really wanted to, do it. I bought the graphic novels. Yeah. I mean, like, just, I'm a crazy super fan. That's what I am. But yeah. We should all just get along and enjoy our Metal Gear Solid fandom. And just support one another in that kind of stuff. Because it's fun. It's not serious. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to think that, like, like, if the PythonSelkan stuff is true, I want it to be true so bad. And those videos, while you're watching them, like, in the moment... incredibly convincing. In the moment. Like, you think about it a little bit later, you're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe that's stretching, guys. But, like, in the moment, they're incredibly convincing, and that would be fucking awesome. It would be amazing. Like, I wouldn't even care that I knew that, or that it was spoiled for me, because it would just be amazing if it was true. Like, if it was as deep as, like, they make it look. Because they have to go deep to, like, prove their theories. And some of them are flimsier than others, honestly. There isn't, but I don't think they're not like kind of revisionist in the sense where they cherry pick to prove their point. Doesn't seem like that. But with every new reveal and with all the new marketing, like new things are revealed, which invalidates other things and props up other things. The Yong Yea stuff, if you want more of a straightforward, like I said, like kind of surface level stuff, he gets into a little bit into the like some of the subtext and stuff. Obviously, like there's some Lord of the Flies imagery he goes into and all that kind of stuff. Also totally worth your time. His latest video, really entertaining. I actually ended up watching it like twice yesterday. Well, I was doing other things, but I had it on in the background. Really fun, really cool. Anyways, this is just me being a Metal Gear Solid fan. Just kind of, I guess I was just thinking about that stuff last night, this morning. I figured I'd make like a relatively short video, I suppose. Not as long as their 2-hour analysis videos about. So that's just my take on it, and I just, Metal Gear Solid's cool, and it's got a pretty decent community, like in terms of people that really, really like it, and they're all really nice. If you head over to, there's a site, Metal Gear Solid Informer, where they just kind of, it's almost like an aggregate in a way, where they just get all like Metal Gear Solid news or things that pertain to Metal Gear Solid and Hideo Kojima and stuff, and they have blog posts. It's kind of like a blog type thing, and it's really cool. It's really informative. You get to see a lot of neat little things. Yong Yea's got some great like interviews with the cast and stuff like that of the upcoming game. Some are more revelatory than others. He's got other analysis videos, and I think he's starting to do a lot of stuff about Fallout 4 as well, if you're interested in that. Which is Fallout 4 is not something I'm actually interested in from an analysis perspective. Because even, like, I really like what Bethesda does, Bethesda Studios. Like, you know, I like Skyrim and, like, all that stuff, and I really love playing those games, but I think, like, their narratives are really boring. I think the stories that, of your own journey, the one you kind of craft yourself in your own mind while you're playing it, is way more exciting, I guess. And which is a credit to them, because they created a world where you can do that. But I feel like Fallout 4 is going to be very similar, at least for me, in that respect, in terms of, like, just, you know, being more of an experience than worrying so much about what the plot is, I guess, you know, because it just doesn't, the games they're so expansive, you can do so many things in them, that it's really easy to get lost, in terms of, like, what the narrative pushes, right? Actually, an open world game that kind of sidesteps that, and is able to, I feel like, pretty successfully weave, like, open world, having a lot of stuff to do, side quests and stuff, is The Witcher 3. It's really, I think it really successfully does that. But now I'm getting on about fucking open world RPGs. Rambling. But yeah. You should be excited, like I am. And I don't know. If anybody out there stumbles upon this video, probably not, but if anybody does, like, what do you think? What do you think about just, like, these kind of fandoms in general? And even if you want to be specific to Metal Gear Solid, that's fine. That's what this video was. And what do you think? Are you YongYea? You PythonSelkanHD? Do you like both of them? Do you think they should just, you know, come together? Maybe do something together? That'd be cool, right? I don't know. Anyways, I'm Shaun, and I'll talk to you guys next time I have something to talk about.